Celebrating Christmas in just 2 weeks from today. The gospel lesson today from St. Luke is always read on this Sunday, the Sunday of the forefathers. Jesus told this story, this parable, about a dinner, or a supper as it says, that a man was holding for his guests. It was a special dinner. Lots of people were invited. It's something like your Thanksgiving dinner a few weeks ago, and your Christmas dinner in just 2 weeks. Lots of family, lots of friends, around a table with lots of delicious food, and a great time to be with those whom we love. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? That's what our Heavenly Father thinks of when Jesus speaks of the heavenly banquet. It's a time of rejoicing. It's a time of His people coming together in Christ, serving one another, and being present with God. In this parable, the Great Supper is the heavenly banquet that all God's people are invited to. But the parable speaks about the unfortunate reality of how people respond to that heavenly invitation. This dinner was very, very disappointing. The hosts invited many guests. They accepted the invitation and were just waiting for the time that the servants would tell them to come. At that time, in Palestine, to accept an invitation and not to come, even at the last minute, was a great insult. The servants announced, "Come, for now all is ready." But what happened? They all began to make excuses. Do we ever make excuses? Yes, but we like to think that they are justified, just like in this case, right? The first man said that he had bought some property, of ground, and he had to go see it. The second, that he'd bought some oxen and had to try them out. "Please have me excused," they said. Their desire to make money, to look after their ventures in the world, was greater than their respect for their hosts. Today, the press of business, the press of everyday life, the press of our responsibilities can crowd out the need for prayer and service to others. And our excuse is, "I'm so busy, I just don't have time." The third man said that he had married and he just couldn't come. Now, it was customary at that time, and in fact ordained in the Old Testament in Deuteronomy, chapter 24, verse 5, for a newly married man to be released from his military and business obligations to begin married life in peace, at least for the first year. So that wasn't as bad as the others, but still, he had accepted the invitation and yet bowed out at the last minute. And this wasn't a military or a business obligation. It was a festal dinner. But he had his priorities, and he used the kindness of the Old Testament law as a cover for his rudeness. He didn't even ask to be excused. How about us? Do we make excuses and think ourselves justified in our daily life? It happens to all of us, even when we are young children. Mom calls us to help set the table, and we complain. "I can't. I have homework." Isn't homework a good thing to do, we say to ourselves? But Mom has to set the table herself. Unfortunately, we didn't mention to her that we'd come home from school and relax by playing video games or something else, instead of doing homework when we should have. Adults aren't immune from this either, especially fathers, and I can speak from personal experience. We don't do what we should do, and we try to justify ourselves by making excuses, but it still hurts for the other person. We need to put ourselves in God's place. How would you kids feel if you'd invited your friends to your birthday party? They accepted. You expected them, but they didn't show up. You asked them why they didn't, and they said, "I had to play soccer," or "I had too much homework," or "Tommy invited me over," or something else. you'd feel pretty bad, wouldn't you? Well, that's what God, our Heavenly Father, feels when we make excuses for not doing what he expects us to do. The meal with Jesus is speaking about here is no ordinary one. It refers to the wedding banquet of God the Father and his people in the kingdom of heaven. The servant who comes to call people to the heavenly banquet is Jesus Christ himself, who calls all of us to come to the kingdom, who says, "Come to me all that labor are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." And we need to respond, "Yes, I will come." And we do come. And then we not just experience the joy of the kingdom, the pleasure of being with all of the saints and the angels and everyone in the church, but we share it with others by serving them as Jesus serves us. In the prophecy of Isaiah, chapter 6, the prophet has a vision of the Lord of hosts, the Lord of Sabaoth, on his heavenly throne, in the kingdom of heaven. The Lord asks, "Who shall I send to my people? Who will go to my people?" And Isaiah shouts out, "Here am I, send me." We need to say to God, "Here I am, send me." Send me to the people that I need to help. Send me to the people that I need to serve. Let us show others the joy of the kingdom, the joy of the festal meal, the beauty of the heavenly banquet, the warmth of fellowship, the compassion of Christ, and the support of those who need our kindness every day. There is so much that all of us can do, whether we are old or whether we are young, whether we are talented or not so talented. We need to keep our focus on Jesus 100% of the time and the people whom he calls us to serve, beginning with our family, our parents, our children, our brothers and sisters, and then our neighbors, our classmates, our colleagues, and people whom we don't even know. A kind word, a gift of compassion, but no excuses. And then we will hear the words of the Lord, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Enter thou into the joy of your Lord, into the heavenly kingdom, into the great feast of the kingdom." As we come closer to Christmas, let us remember this gospel each day, the call of Jesus, and accept that call, that invitation to come to him, to the heavenly banquet, to that joy with no excuses. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.